Hello, hello, welcome everybody. We are here with GoWP expert podcasting and automation, Joe Casabona today. So really excited to jump into his topic and session today. Real quick, I'm just going to say a few words about GoWP and then I'll pass it over to Joe. So I'm Emily from GoWP. And if you're watching on Facebook or if you're watching on YouTube or anywhere else, I think we're on LinkedIn and Twitter also, maybe. So, yeah, anywhere you're watching, just say hi, let us know so we can see. And that would be great. If at any time you have questions during Joe's presentation, if you have questions about what he's talking about, if you have other questions about automations, podcasting, go ahead and throw those in the chat and I'll keep an eye on that. And so will Joe, and we will get to those. Really quick, a couple words about GoWP in case anyone watching isn't familiar with us. At GoWP, we create happiness for digital agencies and help them to become more profitable. So whether you're looking to grow your team with a developer, a copywriter, designer, or virtual assistant, or you're interested in outsourcing services like website maintenance and content edits so that you can focus on growth and get out of the weeds, we've got you covered. Just reach out to myself, Emily at GoWP, or check out our website, gowp.com, and you can contact us there. If you're looking for coaching and mentorship and guidance and community to help take your agency to the next level, check out the Micro Agency Academy. That is an academy we launched along with coaches Pete Perry and Chris Lemma. And you can enroll now and be well on your way to scaling your agency in 2024. This course and the coaching program empowers you to increase your monthly recurring revenue, master the art of strategic hiring so you know who to hire next and how to hire them, increase and really skyrocket your sales closing rate, so get your sales process really dialed in, and amplify your profits while enjoying more free time. So more money, less time on your side. That's the goal, and that's what we're trying to accomplish in the Micro Agency Academy. And right now, through the end of the year, we have a special offer that you can join for $249 a month. It is regularly priced at $499, but we are doing a special Founders Club pricing right now. So definitely go check that out. Jump on a call with Pete Perry. Quick 15-minute call, talk about your business, where you are, if it's the right fit for you, if it's not the right fit, if you're not ready for it, if it's too much of a stretch right now, he'll let you know. And if it's also, would be a step backwards somehow, he'll also let you know that. But yeah, definitely recommend jumping on a call with him, and I'll share that website, the landing page for that, so you can do that in just a minute. So yeah, today we are here with Joe Casabona, and he's going to be talking about breaking down his Be Everywhere strategy. I'm excited for this. I can't wait to see what Joe has to talk about because it stresses me out just thinking about being everywhere. I know it can be time consuming, and you have to remember a lot of things like, oh, did we update that over there? So I'm excited to see what Joe means by Be Everywhere, what his goals and what his strategy is for being everywhere in 2024. So I'm just going to let him take over. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Emily, thanks. Really excited to be here and talk about this. If you have questions about this sweater, yes, it is a Star Wars Ugly Christmas sweater. And I think, sadly, I got it at thinkgeek.com, which is now defunct, even though it powered most of my college years. So if you're wondering where I got the sweater, that's where I got it. Okay, so I am really excited to talk about this today because it's something that I have been noodling on for a while. Also, I don't know if Emily is noticing this, but there is just the slightest delay with my audio. So I am going to switch to something that will hopefully sync it up. And Emily, you'll have to let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Test, test, test.
I can hear you, and I think it looks
Can
better.
you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. Yes, it should look better. Perfect. This is the kind of stuff that you can expect from me on live stream, just testing stuff in real time. Okay, so what do I mean by be everywhere? I was thinking about this a few weeks ago because one of my favorite YouTubers slash podcasters is CGP Grey. If you don't know who CGP Grey is, he makes these really um, in-depth educational videos, and they're really well done and they're deeply scripted. And he's like one of the only people who can really like get away with not publishing on like a perfect schedule, right? Like with YouTube, it's like you need to do the same type of video every time, and you need to publish predictably. And he doesn't do any of that. He just makes these really amazing videos. So maybe what I'll do here is share my screen, make sure that looks good. I'll move this over here so I can still see that. Okay, great. So this is CGP Gray's channel, right? He makes really cool videos. You probably have seen like some of them, just because like it's a huge channel. But what got me thinking about the be everywhere strategy is something that he did. I think it was, I want to say it was earlier this year, but it could have been last year because time's a flat circle. Where he logged into his YouTube channel, but found out that he like couldn't post videos, he couldn't do anything, and it took him 24 to 48 hours to get it all sorted out. And this really freaked him out because I don't know if you could see the number of subscribers he has, 6.04 million subscribers. This is how he makes most of his money. So you can become a subscriber, which I have done because I love his content. And again, this really freaked him out. Like his main income driver could potentially just disappear at the whim of the YouTube algorithm gods, right? And so after that, he decided to do a couple of things. He decided to diversify a little bit. And so you can become a member over on Patreon if you want. You can become a member over on Substack if you want. And of course, he still offers, he does a great podcast with Mike Hurley called Cortex. It's one of my favorite podcasts. And so he gets income from that as well. And I thought CGP Grey has probably a bigger audience than I will ever have because uh, he is one of the few people who's doing like very successfully like a general population, general interest type of content. But I like what he's doing. And so I thought, how can I do more of what he's doing? How can I be everywhere? And the other thing that informed this was, um, I offer a pro version of my podcast. And that's like how I built it is the website, is the podcast. And I've been offering a membership for that for a while. And I thought I'm not going to go on Apple Podcasts subscription. It's like a big pain in the neck to set up. It costs money. And then I'm going to essentially pay them to take 30% of what people would be paying me. Right. And I wouldn't get access to that data. Like when you do anything through like the Apple App Store, like you don't get direct access to those people. So you can't take your audience and go. But then I made an interesting discovery. And so let's see if I can quickly find these analytics. Yes, here we are. Um, so here are the podcast players, and you can see quite a significant amount of the people who listen to my podcast use Apple Podcasts. So much so that it completely dwarfs the Mixer box. Oh, desktop browser. What? Anyway, um, completely dwarfs the rest. Like this looks like an actual graph with multiple things on it. And then when I add Apple Podcasts, it looks like a purple line and then an orange line, right? And so I came to realize that uh, a huge portion of my listeners were in Apple Podcasts. And I thought, well, it's kind of dumb of me to have this barrier for, let's say, 70 to 80% of my audience. And so following that logic, I thought, well, if I want to create fewer barriers, I should really try to be everywhere, right? And so a couple of things led me to this moment, right? CGP grade strategy, this realization. I say this to all of my podcast clients anyway. I'm like, you need to be anywhere people can listen to podcasts because you want to make it as easy for them as possible. And then there's the discovery aspect of it, right? Like um, there are places that will just lend themselves better to discovery. I don't think Patreon is one of those places, but Substack certainly is. YouTube certainly is, right? Like YouTube's whole thing is surfacing content that they think other people will enjoy. And so going into 2024, I'm going to take my previously siloed off membership content that people could only buy if they signed up through my payment processor, and I'm going to move it to almost everywhere. And so let me show you here what I'm thinking, right? So this is a half completed graph right now because I want to fill it in with all of you. I'm using Freeform for this. It's like just the built-in Apple app, the new one. So I've got 4 types. Where are we? 4 types of content. Does this look kind of weird? Let's see. Where are you, Ecamm Live? Maybe I can just make a quick adjustment. I cannot. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, that's fine. I can work with this. Um, so I have 4 types of content here, right? There's the podcast, there's videos, there's my newsletter, and there is live streams and workshops. Now there's one big question mark here for me, which is my most premium membership, which is the Podcast Foundry, is really should be really focused on podcasters and podcast processes. So for the purposes of today's discussion, I'm talking about just my general premium content. You know, I do ad-free extended versions of my podcast. I do bonus episodes of my podcast. I create members only videos where I'm testing things out. There's one where I set all of this up. And then I do a newsletter every Friday that's only for my members about things I'm working on or general thoughts that may make it into the public at some point, but they're the first ones to hear my musings. That was a really pretentious way to put it. Here are the things I'm thinking about, and the things I'm experimenting with. Right? They're also the people who learn about my experiments first, because I'm showing them the experiments as I'm doing them, and then I generally like to share the results later. And so this live stream is actually a really good example of what membership content would be. I'm doing a live stream. I'm showing you kind of what I'm thinking, and then um, I would put it out there, but the members would get the behind the scenes look, right? And so that's what I'm thinking. And then I do have live streams, right? So when I'm not when I'm not live streaming for GoWP, I live stream and then I make those videos like after it's no longer live. I make the recordings or the replays available only to my members. And then I also do workshops and webinars, which again, some of those will be publicly available live, but then the replay is available for members only. So those are the 4 facets of my premium content. I don't know. I don't want to say empire. And then there are the 4 platforms I'm thinking of in red here. We have Apple Podcasts, we have YouTube, we have Substack, and then we have the Foundry. Now, not included here, I'll write these and highlight them in blue. Not included here are Medium. Kind of feel like John Madden, just like writing it down here, and Patreon. So these are, if I really wanted to be everywhere, I would probably want Medium and Patreon. I am publishing to Medium. In fact, like my newsletters, about a month after I send them to my members, become members only stories on Medium. This is an experiment I'm running to see if I can leverage Medium for discoverability and income as an income stream. So far, I've made like $10 off Medium for the year. So at the moment, the juice is not worth the squeeze, but I'm hoping that changes. Patreon, I have tried in the past, and their revenue model has been very unclear to me. And like I said earlier, I don't really think they aid in discovery. I think that if you have a big audience already, Patreon is a good place for you to go. Um, but the properties in red, those are the ones that aside from the Foundry, which is my own platform. I guess I should make like a little note here. My platform. That one does not aid in discovery, obviously, because it's like a WordPress site. So now what I need to do here, I might let's see, can I move my iPad's not directly in front of me in the microphone, and I still want to talk to you while I'm drawing. Um, like an actual broadcast sort of thing. Um, if I say bootleg, that's a reference to John Madden. Okay, so the next thing I want to do here is kind of map my content to the different platforms. This is actually a lot more straightforward than I think uh, than I thought it was going to look. But let's. I'm gonna get really caught up on the colors here. Let's do purple. Scranton purple. Shout out to the Royals. Um, yeah, there we go. That's the one I want. Okay, so podcast. That's going to go to Apple Podcasts. Obviously, it's going to go to right bypass YouTube. If it goes to YouTube, it's going to take a little like know-how and finagling, but I think I can do that. Um, the reason it would take know-how and finagling is because there's no like automatic publish process, right? Emily mentioned like how do you not get overwhelmed in this, and that's the next thing I'm going to talk about. But um, that's going to take some finagling, and then Substack and the Foundry. So it's going to go to all those places. I should probably make some more room for myself. Can I do that? I think I can do that. I don't use Freeform very often. But I thought like this would be the best. No, not that at all. I thought this would be like the best app to do it. Oh my gosh. Um, because like, I was gonna make like a mind map, but that's like really boring. So anyway, yeah, I thought I could easily move stuff around, but maybe not. Okay. Anyway, so that is the podcast. Maybe I'll do different lines for each piece of content. Videos, those are not going to go to Apple Podcast. They're going to go to YouTube, Substack, and the Foundry. Newsletters are going to go to Substack and the Foundry. Live streams are going, whoopsie. I broke my different colors rule already. Okay. Newsletters are going to go to Substack and the Foundry, and live streams / workshops will be orange, not brown. And they will go to YouTube, Substack, and the Foundry. Okay. So that looks like a mess. I can read it. I hope you can read it. Okay. So Apple Podcast is only going to get the podcast, right? This makes sense. There's a couple of reasons why I would want to do this. Again, if I'm switching um, screens here, if I go to my how I built it, you can see that there's exclusive early access, and something that Transistor just recently rolled out, something that like RSS.com has had for a while, and Libsyn and a couple of other ones. But my host, Transistor, just got was the ability to publish directly to Apple Podcast subscriptions. I think Apple calls it delegated delivery. So instead of having to go to Apple Podcasts and upload audio there, I can do this right from my Transistor dashboard. There's a couple of slight hiccups here, right? So you can see that I've got 2 versions of my interview with Adriana Bear, and that's because I want my subscribers to get early access. Um, what I was doing and will still do is there's a pro version of this feed where when someone becomes a member of the Foundry, they also get their own version of the feed, and so my VA publishes to both places. This is going to save her a step because she's not going to have to also publish to Apple Podcasts, right? So she's only going to have to publish in 2 places. Transistor, or I'm sorry, YouTube will also automatically publish public episodes. So that's what I'm thinking here. I'm going to do the full interview, and you can see. Hopefully, you can see this. I'm gonna make this a little bigger. Whoops, not that much bigger. So I want to point something out here, right? Just in case you don't know how my pro membership works. Um, you can see here that one of these is 81 minutes and one of them is 54. Members of the Foundry and of Apple Podcasts get a longer ad-free version. I think I said that earlier of the podcast. Ad-free is easy, right? If you tell Transistor that it's going to Apple Podcasts, it's just not going to include the ads. I insert my ads dynamically for that reason, so that I'm not making like 3 versions of the podcast. And so that's easy. Transistor is just not going to send the ads over to Apple Podcasts. Um, so instead of having to have like these 2 different versions of the same exact episode, I'm going to do what I've done here with Brian McAnulty's episode, right? So this is 51 minutes, and then this is an exclusive bonus that's 19 minutes. So I'm going to give early access to the full interview from the feed. That'll be easy. And then I'm going to make a separate bonus episode out of our second conversation. This is going to save me a couple of ways. My editor is not going to have to make 2 versions of the interview. And the other big benefit here is that if I go into Apple Podcasts, this is like a little like advertising thing. So if I go into Apple Podcasts and I go to shows and then how I built it, um, hopefully you can see this, but there is something. There's this episode that's explicitly marked subscribers only, right? And so if they want to play, they'll say play with a free trial. So it's a little bit more explicit advertising, I'll say, or and like there's an explicit bonus here, right? Because before that, people wouldn't see the subscriber only episodes because I'd have to upload them separately and later. And if there was a free version, they would just see that. So they would still see this Get How I Built It Pro episode, but now they're going to see hopefully more episodes in the actual feed that are subscriber only and will encourage them to subscribe. So that was a bit of a long-winded explanation of everything, but that's why I think Apple Podcasts can be so valuable to me, and that's how I plan on managing that. Instead of having to upload the episode into 3 places, I'm going to upload it to Transistor using delegated delivery, and I'll still have my assistant add both of those episodes to the Pro feed because people who are subscribed outside of Apple Podcasts will be privy to that content as well. Excuse me. Sorry, that was really weird. For video, I think this is going to be pretty easy for me. For videos, I keep the video on when I do the interview, and so my members will just get like the uncut version of the video interview. So they'll get the full conversation. I won't need to add ads. I might want to clean up the audio a little bit, but that's going to be pretty. I'm just going to upload the raw interview to YouTube, and then make that available in the Foundry if my members do want to listen to that or watch that, right? Um, Okay, so I did Apple Podcasts, YouTube, The Foundry, Substack. I'm gonna have to publish everything separately to Substack, and I'm okay with that. But Substack does have the ability to um, publish premium podcast feeds, right? That people can then import into their podcast player. That's really important to me. Like I don't want to make it so that like you have to listen to the premium podcast on Apple Podcasts or you have to listen to the premium podcast in a specific app. I want people to be able to listen to the premium podcast wherever they listen to podcasts. Because the truth is that if they don't, then if they can't, then they won't and they'll churn, right? If they have to go to a separate place to do one bespoke thing, I submit that they're going to be less likely to do it because it's not part of their habit. It's my guess. Um, so Substack allows them to do it's the newsletters, it's the premium um podcast feed, and then video uploads as well. I know that they can do video uploads as well because Gray does that um for Substack, and I think they just announced maybe video podcasts in premium feeds, but either way. Um, so that's really exciting, right? So I will have to do everything separately for Substack. Again, that's okay for me. So videos, YouTube, right? So my main channel is the Joe Casabona channel, the Automated Solopreneur it's called. That one's monetized, so that's where people can become a member. And so I'll mark those videos as members only. Easy peasy. People will see those. That's for basically anything I have here, including when I stream to YouTube, I'll be able to just go into the YouTube studio and mark that as members only after the live stream is over. So again, pretty easy move for me. And then that's same thing for Substack. I'll upload the videos there, and the Foundry, I'll upload the videos to that platform. Right now, I'm using Uscreen. Full disclosure: Uscreen is a sponsor of my YouTube channel, and they have provided the account for free for me. But that's what I tried to build earlier or towards the end of last year, and Uscreen just did it better. So I'm grateful for their sponsorship and their support, and I also like the product. Newsletters, that is Substack and the Foundry. The Foundry, that's just going out to a ConvertKit list, right? When someone becomes a member of the Foundry, they get tagged as a member in ConvertKit. I send that newsletter via ConvertKit. I'll just copy it and paste it in Substack as well. So I do all my writing in Ulysses. So again, that's a bit of an easy transfer for me. Something I'm considering for 2024 as well is reading or expounding, like doing a podcast episode for the newsletter. Maybe I read it verbatim, but probably not because it's real boring, or it can be really boring. But I'm thinking that's going to be like another avenue for the podcast. Obviously, I can't send the newsletter via Apple Podcasts or YouTube, but creating that same content in that format is what I'm considering. I don't want to make too much work for myself, but it could be a good value add. And it'll be another area in Apple Podcasts, especially where it says like, hey, this is subscribers only if you're interested in that. And then live streams, workshops, those are going to work the same exact way as videos. I use Ecamm Live to stream. I know I'm pointing at the screen, but that's what I'm using. That's how you're seeing this setup. And so I can stream to multiple channels, including Uscreen and YouTube. So that's actually going to be like the least amount of work for me, is doing the live streams and the workshops and the webinars, and then just sending those to my members only platforms. So I know I covered a lot there, and it looks like a tangled web, but I think that this is going to give me the most visibility. I'm essentially the reason I'm doing it this way is because I want to make a bunch of bets. I want to be honest, like just publishing on my own platform hasn't worked for my membership. And I think it makes sense why, right? I've relied too much on social, and I don't know about you, but like this year, I feel like I got crushed by relying on social too much. like all the algorithms changed. Like LinkedIn, for example, I was getting really good engagement uh, in the beginning of the year, and then they made an algorithm change in like April, and that just like wrecked engagement. Um, Twitter slash X has been, I think, pretty obvious. Like they very clearly deprioritize external links, like most things do. And Threads just hasn't seemed like a viable option. I did experiments with TikTok, but the things that I was relying on haven't really panned out as far as growing my membership. Um, and so for 2024, I want to first go where people are already spending money, right? Um, I think I think on a live stream for GoWP around this time last year, or 2 years ago maybe, like Facebook went down and there was a lot of discussion around like, well, this is why you shouldn't rely on Facebook. Like you shouldn't build your community on Facebook because things can happen to Facebook. And I equated it to sure, um, you can build your own platform using WordPress. But that's kind of like uh, s- opening a produce store and selling it from your cabin in the woods versus selling it at a farmer's market or at a grocery store. Sure, you own your own platform, but no one's there. You're not going to sell anything because people aren't hanging out there. Or you're not going to build your community because people aren't hanging out there. And I kind of feel the same way about building my platform. Yes, I'm making sure to have a platform where I own all my own content. And in an ideal world, people would buy directly from me if they want. But for the people who are in Apple Podcasts, who have their credit card connected to Apple, who trust Apple as a vendor because they know that some grifter is not just going to take their money and run because Apple will refund them. They're more comfortable making the spend inside Apple Podcasts. It's also easier for them to make the spend in Apple Podcasts. Apple actually, they're the ones who own the patent on like a one-click buy. I think it's them. And then Amazon licenses it from them. I could be mixing that up. But like one of them owns the technology and the other is like, yes, this is so valuable that I'm going to pay you to let me use it, right? Because it makes perfect sense. It's so easy for the consumer. And the same thing on YouTube, right? People have their credit card associated with YouTube and with Google. And that's way easier than just having to one click inside YouTube and now you just get extra content where you're watching the content anyway. Substack. Lots of people have newsletters on Substack. So I think it's a really smart play to be there because people are used to spending money there. They're going there for content anyway, and I'm just going to be among the content that they're purchasing. So I hope that makes sense. I don't know if any questions have come in on that justification or challenges. Like I'm happy to um anybody wants to like play devil's advocate and be like, hey, that's what happens if Substack goes away tomorrow, right? Um as far as the way I'm going to manage it, I'm going to rely heavily on my VA. So one of the things I'm doing right now, actually as part of the last live stream, right, where I moved operations to Notion, I am reviewing my VA's SOPs, everything that she does for me. And so I'm just going to change the publishing process for a bunch of these things, right? So for how I built it, I'm going to say like, oh, do this, like upload the full one, make it 3 days early for subscribers, then upload the bonus episode, make it exclusive, upload it, release it at the same time as the exclusive episode or the early episode. Take this video and upload it to my YouTube channel. Make sure it's marked members only. So I'm gonna lean heavily on her for that because she's basically publishing my podcast at this point on her own anyway. And then for the newsletter, that's gonna be me. That's gonna be me basically copying and pasting. Unless I figure out a clever way, right? Like I could use Zapier but I think I want to do it manually at first, just so I know what the process looks like. And then videos are going to be the same way. The nice thing about like the members only videos is they don't. This is going to sound dumb, but like they don't need to be as polished as the public facing videos, right? People like the behind the scenes look. Um, and then I don't need to like open with a big attention grabbing thing. Because people who are paying for that content want to consume it for the content. I don't really need the hook. So that's going to be pretty easy enough. I'll record an eCam, I'll upload it to YouTube myself, and then I'll upload it to Substack myself. That's what I'm thinking for right now. This is all going to be heavily reliant on SOPs and like a list that I keep in, probably Notion, right? Because that's like where all my other publishing content lives. Okay, so I just spent like 40 minutes almost straight talking. Um, the other thing I was going to do, if there's time, was just kind of take you through Substack, like why Substack pretty quickly won me over. Emily, are there questions, or do you? I know that you were keen on at least one thing. So did I answer that for you, or is there other questions that maybe you'd like me to answer? Maybe
Hey,
Emily's not
Joe.
here. Oh,
I am here. I was responding to you in the private chat, but I don't think you have that open.
oh, I
Yeah,
do
you
not.
answered.
Sorry.
No worries. You answered my concerns pretty well. I appreciated hearing that because yeah, when you think the be everywhere strategy, it to me it stresses me out. But I like how you showed how that all comes together. So that was pretty cool. I haven't seen any questions come in yet. So if you have questions, folks, feel free to throw them in the comments. But yeah, Joe, feel free to continue with the Substack setup. I think is that what you were
Yeah,
going
awesome.
next?
That sounds good. I think that there's maybe one thing to touch on there, like what I didn't say, or maybe what I forgot to say, with the be everywhere strategy, right? Is that I feel like that's mostly in the context of social media.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm not going to be everywhere. I'm going to be, I think, barely anywhere. I think, which I basically did say. I think I'm going to be barely anywhere on social media in 2024, right? Like, I'm just not getting any value out of Twitter anymore, which is like a huge bummer because like I've been on Twitter since '07, since 2007. Um, and then Threads, this is gonna feel like okay, Grandpa, sort of like Great Story Grandpa, but like Threads is already turning into Twitter. I don't know if you've been on Threads much, Emily.
I have not. I've avoided Threads so far.
Yeah, the problem with crappy people on social media is that they're going to go on whatever social media they can be crappy to people on, right? And so in that way, like Twitter's actually better because Twitter has like a very robust muting system that Threads doesn't have yet. And so I see a bunch of stuff I don't care to see. Um, and so
Yeah,
brothers all over the place there. And then so like I'm gonna hang out on Mastodon, I guess, but Mastodon doesn't have any algorithmic discovery, which is great for seeing only what I want to see,
but
but
not
not
great for
great
business
for
strategy.
business strategy. Yes. So I feel like being on these other platforms that have an audience that has already demonstrated that they are willing to pay for good content is the place where I think the membership should hang out. So as far as if you're looking for like a social media strategy, I've been telling my students and clients like pick the social network where your people hang out and post there.
Yeah,
Um, I actually think I wrote a Medium piece on this. Like we should repurpose ideas and not just content. Like making content and then saying like, "Hey, I made this video, Chat GPT." Like make it a LinkedIn post and then posting that. That's never going to do well, right? That's like putting bike tires on your Cybertruck, which based on what I've read would actually be like a huge improvement. But it's like putting bike tires on your boat, right? It's just not going to work. You need to put whatever makes a boat float on your boat to make it go. Um, okay, well, since that analogy is quickly falling apart, let me go to Substack. Here's what I love I kind of decided to do this on a whim one Saturday while my kids were watching their like allotted well, now it's like Christmas movie. They get like one allotted Christmas movie on weekend days. And so we were watching a Muppets Christmas Carol, obviously, which I read is like the millennials It's a Wonderful Life, and I fully endorse that statement. Um, and I was like, oh, let me just mess around with Substack. And so it was really easy to create and set up and turn on paid. What I loved about turning on paid was they connect to your Stripe account. And so like something that like bothers me about ConvertKit, for example, it's like it's their Stripe account. With Patreon, it's like their payment stuff. It doesn't bother me as much with YouTube because like they've been paying out for like advertisements forever. And so like that's pretty well oiled, and I'm not like offended by it or whatever. But I love that Substack is like, we're gonna connect to your Stripe account. And what they did there was they said, hey, we saw that you have some paying and active subscriptions in your Stripe account. Do you want us to move those over here for you so that they can access your paid account here? And I thought, well, that's fantastic. And I'm not I didn't do it yet because I'd want to give the people who are paying me a heads up, because they're probably going to be like, hey, you have access to Joe's Substack now, and they're going to be like, who, what now? So I want to give them a heads up. But I love the onboarding process for Substack. I think it's been really great so far. So the next thing here is get your first 10 subscribers. If you want to see what I'm doing over on Substack, uh, here's the link. If you want to see it, I guess I can make this an overlay in Ecamm Live. Um, I don't have anything paid over there yet. It's going to be like a combination of free and paid stuff. I'm thinking, right? Just like I'm publishing stuff for free over on Medium. And again, this is all I want to make it clear that like these are all just kind of like little bets that I'm trying to do. Um, in update that link that I'm trying to do in 2024, because I want my membership to be a crucial part of my income. Around this time last year, I'm thankful that this year it's been better, but around this time last year, almost all of my income relied on sponsorship, and there was no sponsorship money last year. And you're probably hearing Spotify laying off 1,500 people. Twit TV, which is like one of the oldest podcast networks around, just laid off some people, and they're citing struggles with advertisers. And so I don't want my whole content business to rely only on advertisers. And so 2024, I'm going to experiment with a bunch of these things and make it as easy as possible for people to give me money if they see value. So get your first 10 subscribers, share your Substack, which I'm not quite ready to do, and then write your first post. I have tons of stuff, right? Something I'll probably do here is have my VA um, go through Medium, or maybe like I'll make this spreadsheet, or maybe I'll just have her go through ConvertKit and grab all of the newsletters that I sent to members and add them as posts here, for members only. And so, um, I think the other thing I'll do is, can you see? Oh, that's me. I'm subscribed to my own. That makes perfect sense. I got real nervous. I thought I was just gonna like expose someone's email address. Um, so uh, that's what I'm thinking, right? And then you do have the ability to start a podcast here. So I'm gonna create it on Joe's Substack. Oh wow! Import an existing podcast. Let's do this. Let's do this right now. Let's see what happens. Transistor. I'm gonna go to Transistor. I'm gonna ask you to not steal this URL probably. Um, oh, can I? Surely I can. You can. And don't call me Shirley. Yeah, so I'll probably have to make my own feed. Okay, so I can't do this right now, right now. Hold on. Maybe I can do this right now, right now. Am I on this list? Yeah, here I am. Um, view subscriber details and landing page URL. How do I guess I'm here now so I can show you what I'm doing. Um, if I want to import the premium version of my podcast, what I would need to do is grab a private feed. So that must be this. Boom. Wonderful. And then will you just let me do this? Sure. I mean, you must. Oh my goodness. How cool is that? I l- I love when things are a lot easier than I expect them to be. Holy smokes. Um no, well, no, I don't want to submit. I don't want to submit this anywhere. I just want this to be a paid podcast. Okay, so this is confusing. Submit your new feed link to podcast directories. Uh yeah, okay. So I can skip that part. But yeah, wow. All of the this is wild. All the premium episodes are now available here in Substack. That's super cool. So what do people see when they visit my site? Do they see that? They sure do. Well, hot dog. Well, I have a Substack now, my friends. That's really exciting. Oh, I also just realized that I have that big old link overlaid still. Um, I have a Substack now, so that was really easy. Oh, here's the other thing I really like about Substack is you can recommend content. So I'm recommending my friend Slater, but I can also maybe add probably none of these. Where's podcast marketing magic? Definitely, and creators getting paid. That's a good one. Those are related. The rest of these are like politics that I'm sure people don't care about. People don't care about my opinion anyway. So yeah, love that. Very similar to like the ConvertKit's creator network is very similar to this because Spotify had it first. I'm sorry, Substack had it first. So, real exciting. I love that. Um, so now I've got my podcast here all ready to go. I guess I can create a new. Can I schedule? Wow, record. What? um, Sorry, I'm exploring this now on this stream. I haven't really looked into it. Um, I hope I didn't. I guess it would have just been my feed that I blew up since no one else is subscribed yet. I assume they're smart enough to not send a million emails, right? Yes, they are. They are smart enough to not do that. Okay. Um, so I think I'm just kind of like fumbling and stumbling here. But that was really easy. So now I have a Substack with actual content on it, and if people want to subscribe there, they can. Um, I think the last thing that I really need to think about is how do I want to how do I want to tell people that they can support me on all these various channels, right? Because when you're everywhere, that makes your call to action really murky. It's like subscribe in Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Substack or over at podcastworkflows.com/join. Now people are like, well, what should I do? Do I get all of them everywhere? Right? Like that was what I experienced with CGP Grey. So like I knew I could subscribe in all these places, and I'm like, well, am I gonna get everything everywhere? Why are the prices slightly different? Are they adjusted for I don't know the different cuts that each platform takes? And so what I'll probably do is create a page on casabona.org called support. And I'll say, join here, and it'll go, I'm gonna say to Substack, and I'm gonna say Substack because Substack supports all of the content, right? The videos, the audio, and the newsletter. Or if you just want the podcasts or videos, you can go to Apple Podcasts or YouTube. For the Foundry, I'm also thinking like price point for each of these is going to be between $6 and $12. $6 just for the podcast because it's just the podcast. $12 for the Substack because it's the podcast and videos and the newsletter. The Foundry is going to be like probably $75 a month, because there's going to be a lot more high touch stuff there. Not like super high touch, but there's going to be like sprints, like launch your podcast sprint or um do the daily podcast challenge, like stuff like that to help people grow and improve their podcast workflows. And so that's going to be even more of a niche audience. This is stuff I'm still working through. This is like the year-end planning stuff I need to think about. But I'm thinking like there will be a support page over at casabona.org. If you want to support my work, you can subscribe to my premium content on Substack or these other platforms. And then if you're looking to improve your podcast process, become a member of the Foundry, you'll get all of this and more. That's what I'm thinking. Got to bring this to my mastermind group next week. We're meeting before the end of the year about our goals, and that's the thing I want to talk to them about. So, but I think that's all I have. I'm pretty excited about Substack. I don't know if you could tell.
I'm excited for you, Joe. I think that looks great. I
Thanks.
loved seeing how it worked live on the air. I love how you do that with your live streams too. There was one question that came in that I missed while we were chatting the last time I popped in. This is a question from Liam Dempsey, and he says, "How do you
Hey,
feel
Liam.
about telling your audience, hey, here's my name on this platform. Yes, it has its limits, but with where I am in my business and my life right now, this approach enables me to share this content with you."
Oh, good question. So like how do I feel about like generally telling people, hey, like I'm on this platform sort of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Um Ooh, Liam, can you clarify? Is this about the paid stuff? Because I think I have no druthers with that, right? I would just say like, hey, I want to make it as easy as possible for you to support me if you want to support me. Um, and so like if you're more comfortable doing that over on Substack or YouTube, great. Um, and like maybe I did just answer your question at the end there. Like, here's my preferred place to do it. But if you're more comfortable, you can do it over here too. I think I just want to clarify, or like, do you mean like when we were talking about socials, like, hey, yeah,
Trying to avoid being everywhere, he says. So maybe, I only do Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. I only do
oh,
Medium or, wherever,
oh,
or
I
I only
see.
do Spotify, something like that, I think. So to avoid having to be everywhere.
So okay, so sorry. I think I'm gonna ask one more Claire. I don't think I can see. Weirdly, I don't think I could see the comments, which I think
Oh, do you not see them? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sure.
maybe it's just because like, oh yeah, okay, cool. So my window is really small. How do you feel about telling the audience, hey, here I am on this platform. It has its limits, but where I am, here's where I'm at, and here's why I am here. Please join me here. But oh, gotcha. Okay, cool. Thanks, Liam. Yeah, so that is part of the reason I kept going back to Twitter. Um, Part of the reason I kept going back to Twitter was I felt like I was leaving um like an important community behind, right? But what I found was that like the people who are most committed to you are going to either find you, um, or they're gonna do the thing that you ask them to do the most. So like for me, it's hey, social platforms will change, but I would love if you were on my mailing list. Like that's the best way to connect with me is be on my mailing list. And so I think like the pinned tweet, right? I think like the pinned tweet or the like general like link that's like, hey, find me on these other places. Again, I don't really think I have any druthers with that, right? It's like, hey, I just don't being here is more of a debit than a credit, I guess, to put it in the weirdest way possible. It's more of a detriment than a benefit to me, and so I'm not gonna be posting here. I'd love if you join my mailing list or if you follow me over on these places. Um, yeah, I think I would just say something like that, and I didn't really feel bad about it when I left Twitter the first time around, and so, inevitably, when I stop posting on Twitter again, I'll probably do the same thing. Um, yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
It is.
Hopefully that
It's a
answers your
tricky
question.
and
Yeah.
it's a sensitive question too, right? Because I think about, we have the GoWP community on Facebook, and we, used to pretty regularly do our Friday happiness hours, and we were always doing those on Zoom. And it got to a point where we said, "Hey, do we?" It was the only thing we were using Zoom for at that point.
Mhm.
And, oh, hey, do we still need Zoom? And so we tried doing and this is a little bit different, but we tried doing like the Facebook rooms, I think they're called. I don't even know if they
Oh,
still have
yeah.
them or what they're called now. Complete disaster. Everybody followed us there and everybody showed up, but it was horrible. I mean, it was absolutely horrible. But you do, like you said, if you have an audience and they want your content or they want what you're providing and what you're creating, then hopefully the ones that truly want it will follow you to where you're going. That being said, we're still only using Zoom for Facebook
Yeah,
community.
there's, like, the balance of making it easy for your users and then making it not convenient is maybe the best word for you, for, like, you,
Hmm.
the creator, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm gonna set up a membership on YouTube, but I'm never gonna post to YouTube, it might be easy for the user, but it's not convenient for me, and they're not gonna get any value out of it, right? Um, and so, like, if you had asked me this a few years ago, like, height of the pandemic when people are, like, moving to Circle and saying, like, "Ditch Facebook, Circle's where it's at," and I took a pretty hard stance on if people have to log into Circle to interact with you and they don't wanna do that, they're not gonna do that. But now I think it's changing a little bit. I think this is mostly anecdotal, but social media has been it's been a very tumultuous year for social media, to the point where, like, the people who were saying, just a few years ago that, like, newsletters are dead are like, long live newsletters, right? Like, your
Yeah.
mailing list is the only place where you can guarantee you'll always have access to your audience. And so, that is I'm always thinking about that, like, the balance of let's make it easy for the user while also still enabling me, the creator, to provide value for them. Um, so I think, thanks, Liam, for helping us end on a pretty philosophical note.
Indeed, it's a really good question. It really is, and
Yeah.
it's not a simple one because yeah, it's convenience on both sides, and that's tough. And it can also be cost on some sides too, on both sides as well, depending on
Y
what you're doing.
yeah, I mean, I tried Circle, and I realized that I was paying $79 a month to basically post to people on Fridays, "What were your wins?" and nobody answering. I'm like, "Well, I can do that for free," right? Like,
There you
so,
go.
yeah.
Well, it is just past 2 o'clock, so I want to wrap things up and be sensitive to everyone's time. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and all your experience. We really appreciate it. And for showing up so festively. We did get quite a few comments about your sweater, so you'll have to check those out.
Yes.
All positive. and
Excellent,
and
excellent.
thank you everyone who showed up and watch live. If you're watching the recording, feel free to post questions, and we'll see those and we can get to those next month. We should be back again in the new year, so stay tuned. And again, if you haven't checked out Micro Agency Academy, go check that out. Schedule a call with Pete Perry and see if it's the right step for you and your business. We'd love to have you in there. In the Founders Club exclusive special or exclusive ends with the year 2023. So definitely check that out. Joe, thanks again, and we will see you. Oh, nice. Check it out. I've got
Thanks,
to
everybody.
gotta go that way. There we go. Well,
Oh,
now
yeah,
I'm
hey, let's
just
do that.
messing
Let's
things
do it.
up.
Yeah.
There. Da, da, da.
This is what
There.
happens when I don't communicate anything. I just kind of do stuff.
All right. Everybody have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you at the next event that we do, whatever that is. Stay tuned, and you'll be I'll let you know about it. See you, Joe.